It's Wisconsin Today. I'm Rob Farrett.
And I'm Kate Archer-Kent. On Capitol Hill, Republicans are calling for the elimination of payment pauses for student loan borrowers who've lost their job or experienced other financial hardship. Those provisions are part of the massive tax and spending package known as the Big Beautiful Bill being debated in Congress.
This comes as the U.S. Department of Education resumed collections on outstanding federal student loans in May. The federal government first paused collections in March of 2020 as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
A new analysis by TransUnion, one of the major credit bureaus, says that more than 1 in 5 federal student loan borrowers are seriously delinquent.
And new figures from the Education Data Initiative say that the average cost of college has more than doubled in the 21st century.
To look more closely at the financial picture for student borrowers, we turn to Carol Trone, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Coalition on Student Debt and head of the Fair Opportunity Project. That's a nonprofit focused on college access and affordability. Carol, welcome back to Wisconsin Today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been nearly 7 weeks since the U.S. Department of Education resumed collections on missed student loan repayments. What have you seen? What's happened since?
Well, so what we see, we monitor a helpline for Wisconsin borrowers, and in our conversations, either through the helpline and just working with communities across the state, we're seeing a lot of things. So we are seeing borrowers who are contacting us because they're unsure. What should they be doing about their loans? We've had borrowers contact us and confess to say, hey, this all seemed so overwhelming. I didn't know what to do, so I didn't do anything. With that payment pause that you mentioned, a lot of borrowers are actually in this situation of repayment for the first time. So if you were a student who left college right before the pandemic, this may be the first time that you're actually coming to terms with repayment and what that means.
The Education Department said that it would pair collections restarting with these new efforts to ensure borrowers, know how to get out of default. Has that been the case?
Well, so it was an announcement. And just like with many announcements, the actual administrative efforts to make that happen are still in the works. That said, of course, what we are encouraging all borrowers, all of your listeners, is don't wait till it gets to collections. There are steps that you can take.
So if a Wisconsin resident is delinquent or struggling to pay back their student loans or feeling this inaction and not knowing what to do, what are their options?
Well, so there are several options, and the most important message that we want to give to your listeners is to make sure that they take action, and so that their confusion and the potential intimidation they feel about dealing with what their loan situation is doesn't cause them to just avoid it. So my organization, the Wisconsin Coalition on Student Debt, we staff a free hotline, and this is available to any callers. It's free, it's confidential. So they can call our hotline. That's 833-589-0750. What we will do is walk you through the steps. So we will, and there's no wait times to talk to someone on our hotline. We also have an email helpline, questions@debtsmarts.org. And so we'll tell you where you should start. There's some very basic things that every borrower should do. They should check to see actually what loans they have, and they can do that through studentaid.gov. Next, they can see through that account, they can see who their loan servicers are. And I guess to your question of what a borrower should do if they're feeling overwhelmed, first they should see what their repayment amount is listed as. If that payment is unmanageable for them, they need to contact their loan servicer. And the loan servicer can work with them on either forbearance or to find what's called an income-driven repayment plan. which will calibrate those payments based on the borrower's income.
We're talking about outstanding student loan collections resuming with Carol Trone, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Coalition on Student Debt. Carol, the New York Fed says 2.2 million student loan recipients had their credit scores drop by 100 points in the first quarter of 2025. Can you explain what sort of hit is that?
That's significant. And we are hearing from a lot of borrowers, through our helpline, that they are also seeing even much bigger drops. So, when your credit rating drops like that, there are all kinds of consequences. It affects your ability to take out other kinds of loans, so car loans, mortgages. It can affect your ability to get personal loans if you choose to go back to school. It is a significant drop, and it probably, in the case of borrowers, if you see that drop, that means that there is most likely there's something going on with your student loans. And we do also see borrowers, unfortunately, who think that they may have set up an auto payment for their loans, and then realize that for some reason that automatic payment did not go through, hence the non-payment. We see other borrowers who don't set up payment plans for all the loans that they may have. So it's not uncommon for a student loan borrower to take out multiple loans over the course of their studies. And so for some borrowers, they may see and monitor some of those loans that they have and not realize that there are others that they are not monitoring. So if you see a credit rating drop like this, by all means, log into your account at studentaid.gov, see who your servicers are, contact them, see what's going on in terms of the non-payment.
Has the helpline received any calls about student loan, the student not being contacted that their loans were resuming? Because we've been hearing some of that.
Yeah, so adding to the potential confusion that a lot of borrowers are facing is that in the past 5 years or more, there's been all kinds of restructuring. And so, loan servicers have maybe changed their names, maybe different loan packages have been moved to different kinds of servicers. Recent graduates move all the time. And so this is a very common situation where it is true that we are hearing from borrowers that they did not hear from their servicers. We also know that servicers may not have a borrower's most current contact information. And that's where we really urge every borrower to be vigilant, be proactive, make sure that you not only can log in successfully to studentaid.gov, which is kind of your master dashboard of all of your loans, but that you also have accounts and login access with each of your loan servicers, and that they have your current information. So don't wait for that servicer to contact you. You should go and log in, make sure that information is current. Certainly, you can contact us at our helpline if you have questions about what you're seeing. But make sure that this is something you're monitoring actively.
What is traffic like on your helpline these days?
Definitely, we are seeing spikes this year that we've not seen ever before. I do want to emphasize to your listeners that when you call our helpline, we can get back to you right away. And the things that we can provide help with are things like walking you through the steps that you need to take. It's only your loan servicer who is going to be able to actually, do things like adjust your payment amounts, perhaps change the loan program that you're in. But for us on our helpline, we love this opportunity to get the word out to everyone listening right now. because we have ample support staff to take your questions.
And to get a plan of action and say, like, look, here are the steps that you really need to take.
Correct.
I'm wondering, it sounds like there are provisions in the massive tax and spending package being debated in Congress that would reduce the relief options for struggling student loan borrowers. What do you think the future holds for student debt and financial aid?
Well, we are certainly seeing a lot of proposals. We're seeing, this is a very confusing time for anyone trying to follow this issue. So we're seeing proposals related to the budget reconciliation. We're seeing proposals related to the upcoming annual budget. They are proposals. The House has a certain set of proposals that's different from what the Senate is proposing. We do know that, there's been, I think, an intention for a long time to try to address the complexity of the federal student loan system. And so whether that means simplifying or consolidating the number of different loan programs, if it means reducing the situation that, people can use to seek forbearance. These are all proposals, and the one you mentioned is also a proposal. So we're looking at that. Of course, for us, we're going to continue to provide borrowers with actionable steps that they can take. Within some of those proposals would be things like very low monthly payments. So borrowers shouldn't be too overwhelmed by the thought of what might go away.
Carol, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Carol Trone is Executive Director of the Wisconsin Coalition on Student Debt. She also leads the Fair Opportunity Project. That's a nonprofit focused on college access and affordability.
Coming up, 3 winners of a statewide technology business award share their innovations and tell us why they see Wisconsin as a good place to build on their ideas.
There's a lot of innovations happening, a lot of out of the university and a lot of out besides that. And it's not just in biotech, it's across industries, and I think it's a really great environment to be in.
That's ahead on WPR News. It's Wisconsin Today. I'm Rob Farrett.
And I'm Kate Archer-Kent. Earlier this month, the Wisconsin Technology Council announced the winners of the Wisconsin Governor's Business Plan Contest.
Launched in 2004, the contest aims to help technology-related startups in the state. This year, there were more than 150 contestants.
13 of the most promising companies presented at the 2025 Wisconsin Entrepreneurs Conference in Madison. Pitching their products to an audience of judges and peers, they were competing for the top spot in their category. Those included life sciences, information technology, business services, or advanced manufacturing.
3 of the winners join us now to talk about their groundbreaking products and how they might impact Wisconsin and the world. We start with the winner of the Bright New Idea Award. Stephen Gerard is the founder of Sea Change Silicides. It's based in Whitewater. The company's working on a treatment for titanium medical implants, plates and pins, for example, to help them stay in place and resist infection. Stephen's also an associate professor of chemistry at UW-Whitewater. Stephen, welcome to Wisconsin Today.
Hi.
Let's start with this product. Now, I've heard of people getting titanium like plates and pins, right, after broken bones. Is that the kind of thing we're talking about here?
That's right, yeah. So any titanium implant that would be used in a surgical application, ideally one that would also interface with bone tissue.
But there can be problems, right, when we're putting bits of metal inside ourselves. What are some of the complications that we can have that you're working on?
Yeah, so the 2 primary issues that come up with titanium implants, if they fail, are bacterial infections and implant loosening. That's caused by inadequate fusion with the bone tissue surrounding the implant surface itself.
And so what are you and your team, and we'll get to your team in a minute, how are you trying to solve this problem?
Yeah, so we have patented and we're bringing to market the first of its kind bioactive glass coating for titanium implants.
Bioactive glass coating.
That's right.
What is that?
So, bioactive glass, it's a really interesting material. It's about half silica glass, so the same material that you find in cups, bottles, windows, and then half bone ion, so mostly calcium and phosphate. This material is biodegradable in the human body. So in body fluid, it dissolves. And as it dissolves, two things are accomplished. One, it releases ions that change the local pH in the vicinity of where the bioactive glass is. So it actually inhibits the growth of bacteria. So it limits bacterial infection. And then it also releases those bone ions. And that stimulates the regrowth and regeneration of new living bone tissue.
Now let's talk about the team. You've got undergraduates involved in this, I understand.
That's right, yeah. So at Whitewater, we, in the chemistry program, we don't have master's or PhD students. We have only undergrad researchers. So undergrads have been involved every step of the way, from the conception of the idea to actually implementing it. So I've had students that have been able to adequately make these coatings, verify through data that the coatings are what we say they are, and then do in vitro tests in simulated body conditions to take our coatings and simulate how they might behave in the human body to be able to confirm all of these benefits.
Now, part of the goal of this award, the Governor's Business Plan Contest, you've won the Bright New Idea Award. Part of the goal here is to take these ideas that can make a big difference in people's lives and say, okay, how do we get from the idea stage to we are producing these products? What does that road ahead, what does that business plan look like for you?
Yeah, well, so I'm a relative newcomer to the world of business. So the main impetus for me to even enter into the competition was that I got a UW's innovation grant funded that kicked in January. And as a part of that, I said, I'm going to look at commercializing this technology. At this point, I'm sort of flying by the seat of my pants and learning as I go. So I'm the founder of the company, but what we need to be able to establish moving forward is a production facility. We have to be able to try to find customers. We have to market our product. We have to determine clearly cost structures for the product itself. And then if we're going to be eventually offering this product into the human market, we have to go through regulations and FDA approvals. That will take several years to accomplish.
And you mentioned the human market. Obviously, you're not there yet, but what are the next steps for pets, animals? I don't know where you would go next.
That's right, yeah. So what we hope to be able to do is get our product to into the animal orthopedics market, which is almost $500 million a year. And so this would serve animals like dogs that might have an ACL tear early in life. Maybe certain dogs will have joint problems that they have to get repaired over time. Or maybe you have a dog that's in a traumatic event. Maybe they get hit by a car or something like that, right? And they would require a titanium implant to be able to have a good quality of life. So the FDA doesn't directly regulate those products. So that would be our easiest entry into the market.
And people might think commercializing academic research in Wisconsin likely going to happen at UW-Madison, maybe UW-Milwaukee. Can you make the case that there's a place for this kind of entrepreneurial spinoff from UW-Whitewater and other campuses around the state?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Whitewater has one of the best business schools in the country, and there is a real entrepreneurial mindset that exists amongst both the faculty and the students at our institution. I think everybody at Whitewater, we think that we can really change the world. We can do big things. And I hope that my participation in this competition demonstrated that.
Stephen, congratulations on the award, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
That was Stephen Gerard, founder of Sea Change Silicides, which won the Bright New Idea Award at the Wisconsin Governor's Business Plan Contest. Now we turn to the winner of the Business Services category, a Madison-based company called Equability. Hillary Pham is the founder and CEO. Hillary, welcome to Wisconsin Today.
Thanks for having me.
Can you start by telling us about Equability? What is it? What's special about it?
Sure. So I started Equability because my mom has arthritis and carpal tunnel, which makes things like small buttons and zippers kind of painful for her. So what we do is we take people's existing clothes and we make them easier to wear. So people will ship us their clothes like button-down shirts, jeans, jackets, and we'll add things like snap buttons, Velcro magnets to make them easier to wear.
And when you're working with a person, is this kind of a one-size-fits-all, or are you saying, hey, what are your particular needs here? How can we literally tailor this clothing to meet those needs?
Exactly. So we have standardized options and custom work that we do all the time. So for the standardized options, it's really focused on the challenging functional features. So the buttons, zippers. So like for a jacket, for example, we will take out the old zipper and replace it with one with magnets at the bottom, so it can be done with one hand. So things like that don't require a lot of measurements or a lot of sizing changes. That's what the standardized options are focused on. But for custom work, we'll do, so for example, there was a gentleman in a wheelchair who wears an abdominal belt. And instead of having the belt go over his clothes or kind of make them bunch up weirdly at his waist, he asked us to open 2 inches on each side of his shirts and all of his sweaters so he can thread his belt through his clothes. So it's a little more hidden. So we'll do stuff like that too, where it's not exactly tailoring. So it's not exactly measuring their bust or their waist or anything like that, but finding other solutions for people for their clothes.
Now, I imagine at least for some needs, there's pre-made clothing, right? That comes with adaptive clothing. What would be the advantage of saying, hey, no, I want to take this clothing and modify it versus buying off the rack for what's out there?
So it's crazy. I've been doing this for about 5 years is when I had the first idea. And the industry has grown so much in the last 5 years. So there are a bunch of companies that are coming out with adaptive options. When you compare them to kind of the other options that they have that are not adaptive, it's a fraction of the options. And so for someone like my mom who has a closet full of clothes that she's amassed over like the last 20 years, she has a favorite pair of jeans, she has a favorite jacket that she wants to keep wearing. I think those people don't want to buy new clothes and they want to keep wearing like their favorite clothes. I also remember talking to a girl very early on in the process where she said, I love thrifting. I love crazy vintage outfits. And the adaptive clothing companies are offering like white, blue, black, navy, very limited selection. And she said, I just want to wear something really colorful, or I want to be able to shop at Zara and wear like the trendy button-down shirt dress, but I can't do that right now. So really it's for the people who want a little more freedom in the way that they dress.
And just to bring this home for people, if I've had a minor hand injury or something like that, as many people had, or shoulder or whatever, you find out how difficult it is to button a shirt with one hand. Like, this has got to be a common problem you're helping people solve, I imagine.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I started out this process really focused on physical disabilities. So I was thinking of my mom who has arthritis and carpal tunnel. So we worked initially with a lot of people who have strokes. But now we work with like kids with autism all the way to people with dementia, where a lot of, especially for older people who maybe need to work on their cognitive abilities to make sure that they're maintaining their same processes and stuff like that every single day. Dressing themselves is a really big part of that. So a lot of doctors say you have to continue the habit of dressing yourself or choosing your clothes. So it started out very focused on physical disabilities, and now it's really expanded to anyone who struggles with clothes for a ton of reasons.
Now, when I first heard about your business doing this, I thought of, okay, this is a very practical thing, right? Mm-hmm. People need clothes and need to be able to put them on, and that's true. But I also think of things like dignity and identity and self-expression. How important a part of the story is that?
Exactly. I think so I think of my mom. She is extraordinarily independent. First generation American, came to the U.S. in the 80s. So she is very used to like doing everything herself, dressing herself. She doesn't really ask for help. I don't think she really knows how to ask for help either. So especially for people like her, they want to keep dressing themselves. They don't want someone else to do it for them. They don't want to ask for help. And so I think it's really giving people the option to feel independent again, feeling like they have a sense of self-efficacy and they can rely on themselves. I think that is much more important than just thinking of this as clothes.
Now, you've won, congratulations, this Governor's Business Plan Contest Award. Where is this operation now as far as scale?
So we've been in operation for about a year and a half now. We officially launched November 2023. So we're super small scale. I have 2 women who do the sewing for me. One's in Lake Mills, one's in Sun Prairie. So we're all based in Madison. So very small scale at the moment.
With this contest now, are you thinking of scaling up? Do you have a vision of we're going to do this and provide this service for more people?
Absolutely. So we're shipping nationwide right now. And one of the things that I really want to do shipping is by far the most expensive cost. And so what I've been doing is partnering with local nonprofits locally in Madison to serve as drop-off points. So people can order online, drop it off there, I go and pick it up. What I really want to do is kind of build out a network of drop-off locations, so have them in Chicago or Minneapolis, so they can send them in big groups so we don't have to pay so much for shipping. So I'm always thinking about how to expand, how to scale, how to make things more accessible for people.
Now, are you, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not even full-time on this right now, right?
No, I have a full-time job, so I do this, as a creative outlet.
Let's look ahead 2 years, say. What is your hope for equability in that time frame?
I think my biggest dream is to partner with clothing companies like Duluth or Gap, where people can buy a brand new button-down shirt from Gap and then just have it sent directly to us. So that would mean they could shop from any retail store they want and then just get the clothes adapted to them. And for the businesses too, it allows them to reach people with disabilities who probably wouldn't have bought that shirt without our service.
Hillary, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us, and again, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That was Hillary Pham, founder and CEO of the Madison-based company Equability, which won the Business Services category at the Wisconsin Governor's Business Plan Contest. Next, the grand prize winner of the contest, Phoenix Aid, which is based in Neenah. Ashwin Raj Karthikeyan is the founder and CEO. Ashwin, welcome to Wisconsin today.
Thank you.
Can you give us the basics of Phoenix Aid, a type of bandage for a pretty serious problem?
Yeah, so we developed Phoenix Aid, or at least the initial use case for it, is for a condition called a diabetic foot ulcer. So people with diabetes have immune conditions and they develop these chronic wounds, which is what a diabetic foot ulcer or DFU is. And effectively what happens is on their feet, they develop, small cuts, bruises, abrasions, that sort of thing. But over a couple of period of weeks or months and sometimes years, these wounds never heal, they never close up. And so that results in a diabetic foot ulcer, these big open sores on their feet that are easily infected. And because diabetes is an immune condition, their body isn't able to fight them off as easily. And so especially in what we call underserved populations, this could be Native American reservations, it could be rural Wisconsin, or places like India where we're initially launching. They don't have the best standard of care. They've been using these giant gauze and ointment foot wraps and some variation thereof. And, these advanced products, there's a lot of really cool advanced products out there, but they don't have access to those things, or they don't have the trained medical professionals who know to use those things. And so what we developed is a simplified solution, effectively a bandage patch, which helps accelerate healing, reduces infections, and is a lot easier to use and more affordable.
What inspired you to tackle this problem?
So this actually started, I was working on wound care for some time, sort of as a side project in college. I studied aerospace engineering, and I always had an interest in material science, following my footsteps to my dad, who's a material physicist. But I kind of got into the wound care space because someone I knew in Wisconsin, actually, I worked at JCPenney in high school, and one of my coworkers passed away from a surgical wound. And this is the first thing I really, first kind of inspiration to look into to wound care at all. This isn't something that was really on my radar. But it was sort of, at that time, still sort of a side project. But where I really got into the diabetic foot ulcer space, especially for underserved markets, is actually right before I graduated with my aerospace engineering degree at the University of Virginia. My grandmother, who was living in India, actually passed away from a diabetic foot ulcer. And that's when I realized, this is a really big problem that I think we've got a really great solution for. So,
what is it about this particular wound care, this particular bandage, that makes it a good solution for a long-term wound like this?
Yeah, so, there's no silver bullets for these types of wounds. There's a lot of really cool advanced products out there, advanced therapies, and really, other solutions and things like that. But for these underserved regions, which is the vast majority of people, people who are in rural areas or in other countries or things like that, or people at the VA hospital, for example, they need something that's easier to use, that, trained medical professionals don't have to spend hours and hours learning how to use. Something maybe they can even self-apply, because the issue with the current care is they're changing these dressings every 1 to 3 days for months, if not years at a time, is that we need something that worked with them, worked in their workflow, worked with that sort of education standpoint, and did a better job and still affordable. And so that's how we designed it. There's a lot of cool technologies that so our core technologies is this nanocomposite. It's a fancy term for it. It's able to prevent infections. It has really, really tiny holes that are smaller than viruses. It's able to absorb a lot of the things that come out of the wound in such a way it doesn't damage the tissue and does a host of other things. We call it the ABCs of DFU healing, where we accelerate healing, we block infections, we comfort the wounded patient. And we're able to do that in a nice little tidy package. It's just easier to use than what's currently out there, and it's also cheaper. And that's kind of what sets us apart from all these other, again, advanced. They work well, but they just don't work in the environments we're looking for.
Now, you've got this, the governor's award here, the grand prize. Congratulations, I should have said at the outset.
Thank you.
Where are you now in the process? I see a product in front of me you brought to the studio with us. Where are you in having this in the field, providing those ABCs to people?
Yeah, so pretty excitingly, here in Madison, we're actually doing our first animal study. And then we've actually been approved for clinical trials actually in India, and we're planning to do those at the end of this year. And the reason we're going to India first is not only is it a huge market, and we can take these Wisconsin-made products, even for the products we're going to India with, we're planning on manufacturing everything in Wisconsin. So it's a big market, but also we can use that data that we collected in India to speed up the process for the American product launch, which we're hoping to do in 2027.
And as we wrap up, Ashwin Raj, make the case that, hey, Wisconsin is a place we can do entrepreneurship. Because, again, I don't know that the country as a whole looks at us, has us on their map for hot entrepreneurial activity.
I certainly think it is. I really like the sort of atmosphere that we have here, and it's kind of shocking. I go to a lot of these events, the Governor Business Plan competition, and many others besides that are in Wisconsin. You realize there's a lot of innovations happening, a lot of out of the university and a lot of out besides that. And it's not just in biotech, it's across industries, and I think it's a really great environment to be in. For one simple thing, if you raise a portion of money in Wisconsin versus a portion of money in California, the money's going to go a lot further in Wisconsin. You have a lot of great scientists, you've got a lot of great researchers, but you also have just a lot of great people in the manufacturing space and all the other sort of categories of jobs and applications. And so this is such a great environment to be in. That's why we're glad to be here.
Ashwin Raj, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Ashwin Raj Karthikeyan is the founder and CEO of Phoenix Aid, a startup based in Neenah that won the grand prize at this year's Wisconsin Governor's Business Plan Contest. Earlier, we talked with two other winners from this year's competition.
Still ahead, the Peninsula Players are marking their 90th season of summer plays in Door County.
We are on 16 acres of cedar forest, and we are directly on the shore of Green Bay. And there's a modern state-of-the-art theater set right there within nature.
We go there next on Wisconsin Today.
You're listening to Wisconsin Today. I'm Rob Farrett.
And I'm Kate Archer-Kent. It's time for Wisconsin Life. Here's producer Bridget Bowden with a story about stargazing in Door County. It's part of WPR's Wisconsin Road Trip series, which features pit stops across the state to explore some of the people, places, and things that make Wisconsin summer special.
Summer nights in Wisconsin are the perfect time for stargazing. Reporter Anna Marie Yanni recently drove to Door County, where Wisconsinites can see actors perform under the stars and visit the state's only international dark sky park.
Ah, the twins!
Hi, Elsie!
Morning!
I love this dairy farm.
Northern Sky Theater is known for original musicals set in Wisconsin, full of cheese puns and Packers references. And what's extra special about these productions is that they often happen under the stars at Door County's Peninsula State Park.
Just give me a cookout with a brat and a beer.
For the actors, that means rehearsing under the stars. Alex Campia told me a castmate has a Constellation app he'll sometimes pull up between scenes.
There's been multiple times that he has found the space station in orbit, and we've been able to watch it go across the sky.
Right before they open a show, the troupe rehearses late into the night, sometimes after 11 p.m.
When we're done with rehearsal and it's dark and it's quiet, we'll walk back to our cars and just sky full of stars. I think Door County is where I've seen the most stars in my life.
The skies in remote Door County make for some of the best stargazing in Wisconsin. Here in Peninsula State Park, the cast is rehearsing a show about inheriting a dairy farm called Derriers. Get it? Dairy heirs? These are the kind of puns they're known for. But the play also has poignant notes about farming culture in the Midwest. Musical director Alyssa Rohde composed the music. She's been with Northern Sky for over 10 seasons.
We're in this art form that has people coming under the stars, sitting in this beautiful sanctuary of trees with this open sky above their heads, and then we're sharing this experience.
And even though she lives in Milwaukee, she keeps coming back, summer after summer.
Living in Milwaukee and the light pollution that's there, if I look up at the sky, it's very different than when it's nighttime here and I look up at the sky and I can see just the number of stars.
When you think of the Midwest, you don't think of this being a typical spot where you could have a dark sky area.
That's naturalist Beth Bartoli at Newport State Park, about 20 minutes up the road. It's the state's only international dark sky place. Bartoli helped Newport get the dark sky designation in 2017. That involved years of taking measurements of the sky's brightness around the park and offering educational programming. Bartoli lives just down the road.
I used to lay in the middle of the road to look at the stars because I live in the woods. My house is in the woods. So I can't do that now because there's more traffic coming in here because they're coming down to see the dark sky park.
In fact, they've had so many visitors for their stargazing nights that they're planning to build a viewing area.
In the summer months, the Milky Way is directly overhead, and it is such a cluster of stars and galaxies and all kinds of cool stuff up there that it looks like a cloud because it's so thick with stars.
While Bartoli works hard to give visitors what they come for, she can't control the weather. But if you do get a clear night in Door County, it's sure to be a welcomed escape.
It may not be LA or a big city like Green Bay, but away from the city noise there are simple joys.
WPR's Anna Marie Yanni brought us that story on stargazing in Door County. Wisconsin Life is a co-production of Wisconsin Public Radio and PBS Wisconsin. Additional support comes from Lowell and Mary Peterson of Appleton. I'm Bridget Bowden.
Join us every Friday this summer for more Wisconsin road trips. To see all the stops and plan your own road trip, find the series page at wpr.org/roadtrip.
Now, in Door County, the Peninsula Players summer season is underway with performances of Barefoot in the Park, a comedy by Neil Simon about navigating life as newlyweds. Other plays in the lineup include a stage adaptation of Stephen King's novel Misery and a Broadway musical version of Little Women.
The company is marking its 90th season, and they're recognized as the oldest resident summer theater program in the country.
Linda Fortunato is artistic director of Peninsula Players. In her 2 decades with the company, she's been a director, choreographer, actor, and business manager. And Ryan Hallahan is a stage and screen actor based in Chicago who's returning for a second season with Peninsula Players. His TV credits include Chicago Med and Chicago Fire. Ryan and Linda, welcome to Wisconsin Today.
Thank you so much for having us.
We're happy to be here.
Linda, you've worn many hats at Peninsula Players over the years. How does this 90th season feel?
It's really incredible. 90 years is a really long time for anything, but especially in the world of theater. And so it's really thrilling to be a part of such a long tradition.
A long tradition. And it also, harkens back to this Wildwood Boys Camp near Fish Creek in Door County. Can you talk about the setting of the theater?
Sure. So the theater was founded in 1935 and in 1937 moved to its current location, which, as you said, was a former boys' camp. And it's just the most beautiful setting I could imagine. We are on 16 acres of cedar forest, and we are directly on the shore of Green Bay. So we have just the most beautiful natural environment, and there's a modern state-of-the-art theater set right there within nature.
Ryan, does that natural wonder around you inspire you as an actor?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I love about working here so much is that it never actually feels like work, even if the days are long. You know, sometimes you're rehearsing one show during the day, performing another show at night. But there's a tranquility and a peacefulness and just a natural beauty about this place where you're never really tired. You're sort of always recharged and feeling good. And it's just one of my favorite places to be.
And there must be also this synergy because there's the resident aspect with everyone living on site. How does that influence the performances and the overall experience?
Yeah, absolutely. You really mesh as a group in a way that you don't get to at a lot of other theaters. I love working in Chicago, and I love, being able to call the theater my workplace and then having my life away from the workplace. But one of the things that's so exciting about being here is that we're not living together, but we're living very, very close to each other. We're taking meals together. We're hanging out with each other outside of rehearsal or performances. And you become a more cohesive group that way. And I think that that translates into the work that you see on stage.
You get to know the actors and the stage crew in different ways as you become part of this community for the summer.
Absolutely. I hesitate to use the word family with a workplace because in my experience, if a workplace tells you that we're like a family, it means you're about to walk into the worst work experience of your life.
Fair.
But it really does have that familial quality to it. And it's really special.
Linda, this passion, you can hear it. How did Peninsula Players go from a homegrown community theater to a professional company that brings in top talent from around the country?
I think you said the key word, passion. It really is. We get to have people who this is what they love to do. And as Ryan was saying, like, what better place to do this? And it's really, this place attracts great people, both people to work here, people to perform here, people to come see theater here. There's just something really magical about the setting, about the fact that it's been around for so long. And it really does, everybody does have almost another layer of investment in what we do because of the nature of the way we do it and the fact that it's been around so long that even though each one of us is a tiny part of this 90-year history, there's an extra investment because of that.
How does the local community rally around the company and what is that relationship like?
We could not do what we do without the support of the community, from our advertisers, our board members, our patrons, our donors. Door County is such a vibrant arts community in so many ways and are such great supporters of the theater and supporters of our organization. And we are so grateful to have people who want to be here. We have people every year. We still have people who come for the very first time, and we have people whose families have been coming for generations. And it's a really wonderful mix of patrons that is, theater is such a unique art form that it only exists if there's someone there to watch it. And so we're so lucky to have enthusiastic people joining us to make what we do be actually realized.
We're talking about Peninsula Players. This is a Door County-based summer theater company kicking off their 90th season of performing for audiences on the shores of Green Bay. And we're joined by artistic director Linda Fortunato and actor Ryan Hallahan. Linda, you know what's in the secret sauce here as you oversee the selection of plays for each season and what works together, what will make sense. What drew you to the 5 plays you're staging this summer?
Sure, that's a great question. And I take my inspiration or secret sauce from the legacy of this incredible place. All the way in the initial seasons in the 1930s, the founders were really interested in presenting a variety of different things. You can look at the early seasons and they did everything from, they would do a Greek tragedy followed by the latest comedy from Broadway, followed by a musical review written by the company themselves. And I think that is something that makes our theater unique. So it is something that I have tried to continue that tradition. So we have a comedy, we have a thriller, we have a musical, a romance, and then a more touching dramatic comedy. So there's not only is there something for everyone and everyone's taste, but if someone wanted to come to all 5 shows, they would know that they would be on a different adventure every time they came.
But it also means, Ryan, that you have to be pretty, I would say, even super versatile based on the range of roles that you would have to play. Can you talk about that? Because you're in Barefoot in the Park and in Misery.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is one of the great things about working here is that you very often have an opportunity in a short period of time to do roles that you might never get to do in the same season, and you get to do them all in the same summer. And so one of the things that's a lot of fun for me about this season is that my role in Barefoot in the Park, it's pretty light work, and it's a lot of fun. It's kind of easy breezy, and then you get into Misery, which is much heavier and also still a great deal of fun, I think, to watch from the audience perspective, but more thrilling than lighthearted and funny.
So you go from being a telephone repairman to being this, agonized novelist.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so it's great. And to be doing both of those at the same time, to be rehearsing one during the day and then doing the other at night. And it really helps you. I think it makes you a better actor. And that's one of the things that I love about working here is having these completely different stories and these completely different characters stacked on top of one another and trying on both of those hats at the same time during the day and doing it for weeks at a time. It's like a muscle like anything else. And so this gives you a really unique opportunity to exercise that muscle in a way that you don't really get to in a lot of other places. It's one of the things that I love about working here.
Linda, as you look out at the audience, Wisconsin saw another record-breaking year for tourism last year, and it's possible Door County could see even more visitors this year. Are you noticing that with rising tourism? Is that affecting your audience?
It is. It's thrilling to see. We obviously theater had a really tough time during COVID and shutdowns and people being slow to maybe return to the theater and public events because we just got out of the habit. And last year, we were very happy to see our audiences returned to their pre-COVID sizes, and numbers are looking great for this year. And it's so exciting to have people on our grounds enjoying the nature, enjoying our pre-show bar and our intermission bonfire, and to see them all move into the theater together, share a laugh, share a tear, breathe together, gasp together, really creating a community within the audience every night.
Well, Linda and Ryan, I wish you all the best with this 90th season. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
That is Linda Fortunato, Artistic Director of Peninsula Players, and Ryan Hallahan, a stage and screen actor who's performing with the company, second summer with the company, as they mark their 90th season. You can see Ryan perform in Barefoot in the Park through July 6th at Peninsula Players Theater near Fish Creek in Door County. And for disclosure, Peninsula Players is a business sponsor of WPR.
If you have Door County theater memories or road trips to see summer theater or the Wisconsin night sky, reach out and share your story at wpr.org/Wisconsin Today.
We have a one-day member drive coming up next week on Thursday.
And a one-day drive works best when we get an early start.
So help us meet the goal of 1,200 donations by Thursday, June 26th.
When you do, WPR programs will receive an extra $12,000 from a group of generous members.
Our budget year comes to a close at the end of the month. It is time to make sure we end this year successfully and start the next one strong.
Join in right now with your gift at WPR.org/donate. That's WPR.org/donate. And thank you so much for your support of WPR.
Wisconsin Today producers include Royce Podeswa, Beatrice Lawrence, and Rochelle Wilson.
Our technical directors are Lee Rayburn and Tyler Ditter.
Our senior producer is Joe Tarr. Learn more about us at wpr.org/Wisconsin Today. I'm Kate Archer-Kent.
And I'm Rob Farrett. You're listening to WPR News.